Well, welcome to Maryville Cares. Maryville Cares is a show that talks with many wonderful guests. Today we have Sister Maureen Jenkowski, who's joining us on a very important topic regarding supporting children's mental health, particularly when we're returning to school. We were talking the other day about some of the topics that are prevalent right now for children, and Maryville is celebrating its 140th anniversary this year, and we are just so excited about the fact that for 140 years we have been helping and supporting children and families, and we welcome the opportunity to share information on different topics here once a month on our Maryville Cares show. I also want to point out that we have a phone number there. That phone number is to our Maryville Crisis Nursery, which is there to provide resources and referrals. If anything comes up in the show today that you might have some questions about regarding resources, they would be happy to assist with you. So on today to our topic, which again is supporting children's mental health for return to school. And as we were talking earlier, is through the Chicago Public Schools, this is the second week in school, and for some of the private schools, they might have been in school a little bit longer. But we know this is a very sensitive time, transitioning into a new academic year. And so, Sister Maureen, let's talk a little bit about what that is about. We do have a slide here to talk about what are some of the things to look for when children are returning to school.
Okay. So, as they're returning to school, we know that children have been in their homes and they are post-COVID, but also COVID has returned. So there's a lot that's been going on, maybe in their families, in their personal life. And due to the violence and all the different stresses that are there might be an uptake in like domestic violence and drug use and child abuse. So our children are coming back and they have experienced a lot of this. And so as teachers or as professional people, we need to be aware of what are some of these things and what can we do to be aware and also to provide some support. So that's what we're going to look at today.
Well, and I'm just, noticing the one area that you talk about lack of routine and structure. And, we all, look at this beautiful background here. It's a beautiful summer day here in Chicago and the sun is out and, we want to be out and exploring and enjoying outside. And so the schedule is different during the summertime, and that's okay. That's a good thing. We need our children to play, and but when school starts, that quickly shifts, and that can be disorientating at times when you're not used to getting up as early and getting dressed and getting out the door, and
eating breakfast and eating meals, all those different things, which are really difficult for children and have to sit and study or do homework, where they prefer to be out and playing.
Yeah, and just being able to adjust to new people.
Exactly.
And so for our next slide, we talked a little bit about this idea of a backpack. So talk to us about the whole idea of a backpack.
I like to use that image because a backpack kind of school when we see that. And we put our possessions in there, things that are important, our notebooks, all of that. But I think we also have to remember that children are also putting in their life and lived experiences. So the stresses that they experience during the summer, some of the feelings that they've had, maybe feelings of isolation or somebody died, or something that happened, the responsibilities that they're carrying, and what's expected of them. What do some of these things look like for our children? And we know that some children are coming from really difficult situations, having had, traumatic experiences, and they're carrying really heavy backpacks. So what can we do to help children so that they learn a healthy way of coping with some of these things that they are carrying and to be able to let go of some of those. So as teachers or as social workers in school, as administration, we need to be conscious of what is each child bringing with them to school, and how can we help them to lighten their load.
Well, and I like that you talk about the support at the school, because as parents, sometimes we're not so sure about sharing some information, because that can be a little scary, and we want to recognize that our family information is confidential, and that sometimes we think that if something has happened at home, it's separate. It's separate from what might be going on in other areas. But really, truth be told, is that as you mentioned, our children carry things, and even little babies, our little ones who may not necessarily have the words, are really feeling all of the things that might be going on around them, but maybe they just don't really understand all of that. And so even when you think about our little preschoolers and maybe even older children who just don't have that language, I think, we were going to talk a little bit about the fact that there's a re-energized focus on social and emotional learning, and that in terms of children being able to learn their best, they need to feel like they're safe and things are settled, and so they can take in what's going on. And I think when you talk about some of the things that they may have experienced that we know nothing about, they may even come with a smile on their face and everything's going well, but maybe not so much.
Yeah, and school can also be a respite for them, and then they have to go home to chaos maybe. And we know, if children have experienced trauma, one of the best things you can do for them is to provide a schedule, or like some stability, or that they know what's going to happen next. And when they're in school, they pretty much do know that. So I think it's important that we recognize that and teach people different ways that we can help the children. And it doesn't cost money. It's just simple coping mechanisms that are important, and teach the children, don't stuff it all down, because it is going to come out. Talk to somebody. There is somebody there who cares about you, who wants to help you. And I think teenagers, it's difficult for them because, as we know, teenagers are always going through, they're moody and things like that. So how do we distinguish whether it's just being a teenager, or is there something going on in the home that we need to maybe explore with that child, or give that child some resources to deal with? So.
Well, and I think, what you just referred to is the fact that, when they're in school, the idea is to be learning and gaining friendships and connections, whether that be in the classroom or outside in the classroom with extracurricular activities, which is a good route to go if that's something that the child is interested in. I know even some of the grammar schools have expanded their resources for after-school care with doing different clubs. So families and parents can really find out what type of opportunities are there that can be looked to them as fun, whether that's with music or the arts.
Art, yeah, all of that's available.
We were talking a little bit earlier about the idea of what does that circle of support really look like? And when you think about school, you do have your teacher, who's your, main person, but you also have other counselors and social workers and administrative staff and, other parents who are involved in the school. And I know that each of the schools work really hard on being able to provide such a safe, welcoming space so that families will come to family night. Can you talk a little bit about what a family night might be like for a parent and why that's so important?
Well, it might be something like getting to know your teacher, or to see what the classroom looks like. Where does that child sit? Let them show it to you. Or there might be an activity that's going on, like a dance or something. But if your teacher sends out something, pay attention to that. That means a lot to your child that you are there and you are supporting them. And it's also an opportunity for the teacher to get to know you too. Having been a teacher previously, I always appreciated when my parents would come in and kind of share a little bit about what was going on in their homes, or their families. Maybe somebody had just died or somebody's sick, just so we know that this child is going through something difficult, and what can we do to help support them,
Well, and I think the importance of that is that then you as the educator can really be sensitive when maybe that's not something you would directly be dealing with, but we know, children react in different ways, and we know that we have to kind of be fair with our expectations for the children, and maybe do some additional new types of support to be able to help out. I think since COVID that the education system has been quite sensitive to the fact that there has been so much change for families and what that really looked like, not just in terms of their learning environment and what they were doing at home, but also how that affected their friendships and their ability to connect with people. I know that some children, are looking for a friend, and how does that get developed in an education environment, whether that's at recess or at lunch. Those are real special times for kids to be able to gain that.
Yes, to build their social skills, especially if they've been isolated. They were home on the computer. They weren't with their classmates, and now they're here. So you might see, some children having difficulty moving, transitioning into making friends, but that's part of being a kid, and being in school. The good memories you think of, right?
Well, and those awkward experiences at times where you kind of learn what's okay, what's not okay, and replay that and retry it again, or you quickly get feedback from your friends at school when something isn't right, usually.
Right. Yes.
And so that's another area that we want to consider when we're thinking about, a child's mental health in terms of how they're feeling showing up to school every day. Are they excited about it?
Right.
And when they say they really don't want to go to school,
what's behind that, as parents, And I guess, what are some of the concerns that we should be looking at? Like you said, if they don't want to go to school, talk to them about that. Or you see that they're waking up having nightmares, or, they're worrying a lot, or there's a lot of fear, they're really nervous. Some of it's developmentally appropriate, some behavior, so you need to distinguish between the two. Is this a persistent behavior, or is this something that's constantly showing up? And, children shouldn't have to fear and worry, but in the world today, the way it is, they have so much pressure on them, that some of this is going to come out in their behaviors. So,
well, and they say, we know all behavior has some type of meaning.
Right.
And so behind that, I think sometimes we're looking for something very overt or something so obvious that you have to address it. But actually what we know is that it's typically done in very subtle ways. One of the things that you had up there a few minutes ago was things to look for, just, basic hygiene, just basic skills in terms of how to, be ready to go for the day.
Yeah.
Just kind of loss of interest, or, we have to mention about social media, and I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that piece of things, because
I think it's really important with all that's going on in the world today that we be attuned to what's going on, what our children are watching, and really limit, social media, like at night before they go to bed. take that away from them or say no, because you want them to sleep so that they can, participate the next day. But what are they watching, or limit like games that are very violent. We have, Chicago has shootings all the time, and children are little sponges, and they're taking in all of this. So, if you see a child that was once or at home is very outgoing and really happy and carefree, and all of a sudden you see a change in them, talk to them. What's going on? Did something happen at school? Did something happen on the way to school? Are they being bullied? We don't know, and maybe they're afraid to say something, but they have a lot on their plates right now. Just thinking, even having to do active shooter trainings, right?
Mm-hmm.
We were children, our biggest worry was, is mom going to be there when we get home?
Mm-hmm.
But you go to school now and you have to be thinking, oh, if somebody comes in and is going to harm me, what do I do? I'm not safe in school anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's real important too as adults that we don't talk in front of our children about things that are going on, especially the little kids. They get scared. So limit some of those conversations, and
Well, I think what we're kind of highlighting is just really being sensitive about what experiences your child's having, whether that's in person in your home or in person at school, or what type of what type of values and things are important to you as a family, and then how is that integrated into your day-to-day schedule. The other day I was listening to somebody talk about them being a parent and how they really used music as a way to really connect with their children. They would sing them a little song when they would wake up in the morning.
Oh, nice.
Now they're adults and they don't really like that song so much anymore, but it gave them sort of a rhythm of the day, and that the mom really felt like that has been embedded in their bones, if you will. Something so simple as a little tune, or a simple gesture or routine, like you talked about bedtime. I mean, clearly the American Academy of Pediatrics and our child development experts are really honing in on the fact that we really do need to limit our time when it comes to screen time.
Yes, absolutely.
And particularly before bedtime, that time of quietness and settling and sort of regulating your body so you can get a good night rest can
so
really...
you can survive the next day.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I think it's also important that we create family rituals, like maybe eating a meal together, and during that time, letting the children talk about what their day has been like, really listen to them. Listen on a deep level. They might be telling you something in words, but what's their body language? Are they excited? Are they fearful? Do they want to share with you what's going on? And be involved in their life. I think, or on the weekend, going someplace with them. It doesn't have to be going out to eat or something, but take a walk together or go to a park, spend time together so that they feel nurtured and loved, and they have a safe place to come home to.
Yeah, I think one of the, the Surgeon General in the last few months took out has a report about loneliness, and that it's an epidemic right now in terms of many different ages of people feeling lonely, and that includes young people.
Right.
Which we're at a time where there's connection, but I think what we're recognizing over the last few years is really what type of connection. So the examples that you just gave, having a meal together, or simply asking how your day was, and then actually take the first 5 minutes. I have talked to many parents over the years as a working mom, that I would come home and then you're just kind of rushing to get things done. And I would wonder why the kids were acting the way they were. And I finally said, you know what, this isn't working. I got to try something else. And we would just sort of be with each other, even if dinner was going to be later. And that really changed. It changed things for me. It changed things for them. And it helped that transition be a little bit more comforting as opposed to being overwhelming, I think. And we just have a few more minutes, but I wanted to share with you a resource that we're going to put up on the screen, that Maryville has a family behavioral health clinic. And there is a QR code that you can point your camera at the picture, and it will lead you to maryvilleacademy.org and our family behavioral health clinic. And that is a clinic that if you felt like you had some questions or were interested in behavioral health services or needed a referral, this would be a great place to start. We provide services for many families under many different circumstances, and that is just one avenue. We know,
and in English and Spanish,
yes,
too, which is important.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think, we've talked quite a bit on this show over time about asking for help as a sign of strength. So what would you say about that?
Definitely.
Okay.
There's a lot of resources that are out there. Don't be ashamed to ask. Better to ask. What's that saying? Better to ask permission than ask forgiveness or something. So be proactive and really let's teach our children good coping mechanisms and let them enjoy school and enjoy life, So don't be afraid to ask if you need something. There's always somebody there to listen or to help you. So.
And I will say too, you have your pediatricians,
right.
If you're involved in a church, there's different families within the church environment that may have different resources. Because when you're feeling like you don't know what to do, that's really the time to pick up the phone and call somebody. And that really can start things going. And when we talk about children at school, please do not hesitate to contact somebody at the school or speak to another parent. It could be as simple as, getting the schedule or about the homework, or if you want to go on a field trip with the kids.
Yeah,
those are
that's
just
a great way.
Very special opportunities that goes back to the idea of feeling connected in a very special way, that kids will remember these things. I mean, think about when you were little, those things that you remembered. There's lots of different kinds of memories to have, and we really are laying those memories that are going to last a lifetime in terms of their whole well-being and how they're going to learn and how they're going to thrive in our environment. And so your initiative can really have a big impact.
And children do pick up how we express things or how we carry ourselves too. So I think it's important that we take care of ourselves too, so that we can be there for our children.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And again, another number to call is 773-205-3637. That's our helpline at the Maryville Crisis Nursery, and they'd be more than happy, the family worker team, to give you any type of resources or referrals for your children. They're there to listen and to be able to sort of guide you in the direction when sometimes things can get very confusing. And this is one way that Maryville is here to support, along with our Family Behavioral Health Clinic. So please, if you have any questions or need more information, you can always give us a call at 773-205-3637. And I just want to recap, if there were just 2 or 3 things that you would want families to take away from today, what would that be like?
I think 1, take care of yourself so you can be there for your children, and 2, be aware of what's in their backpacks. What are they carrying? How are they behaving? What are some coping skills that you can tuck in their backpack with them to take to school? I don't.
Those are two good ones. Those are pretty top notch, because when parents and caregivers are doing well,
Right.
it really does have a major impact. And
Right.
being mindful of that backpack, and we are just so grateful for the opportunity to share some of these tips and strategies with you. And we welcome you to join us the fourth Monday of every month here on Can 21 for our Maryville Cares show, particularly this special year as we're celebrating our 140th anniversary. We're going to have a special show to share the history of Maryville at some point this year. And again, if you need any resources or referrals, you can call 773-205-3637. Have a good evening.
Thank you.